Bank heists have a long history, so long that it'd take hours to list them all. Though it is wrong to steal, it is no secret that almost everyone enjoys the thought of being able to pull off such an extensive and impossible feat. Why do you think there are so many movies about bank heists? The thrill of coming up with an elaborate plan, the uncertainty of your crew, and the adrenaline through it all makes them the perfect attention keepers. So in this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 bank heists. But before we begin, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and enjoy the video. Number 5. Dar es Salaam bank robbery in 2007. The largest bank robbery in history took place on the 11th of July 2007 at Dar es Salaam Investment Bank in Baghdad, Iraq. The theft was reportedly an inside job, with 2 of the bank's security guards involved. The thieves made off with $282 million in US dollars and 220 million Iraqi dinars. As this robbery took place during the Iraqi Civil War 2006 to 2008, the resources and reach of the Iraqi police were severely constrained, resulting in no one ever being charged. It is likely that the guards were either working for or with one of the sectarian militias active in Baghdad at the time. The biggest unanswered question, however, is how a relatively small private bank came to have 282 million US dollars in cash. Reports immediately suspected a link between the cash, Iraqi government corruption, poor financial management on the part of the Coalition Provisional Authority, who famously shipped in more than 300 tons of cash during the first few months of the occupation, and the sectarian militias that filled the power vacuum in post-invasion Iraq. As a result, and the consequence of these political difficult questions, there seems to have been little appetite to get to the bottom of this case. The Dar es Salaam Bank, which was 70% owned by HSBC between 2005 and 2013, remained in business for more than a decade after the heist until it eventually shut down in 2008. Number 4. United California Bank. The United California Bank burglary took place on 24th of March 1972. When the safe deposit vault at United California Bank in Laguna Niguel, California was broken into and $9 million, which are $58 million today, in cash and valuables were looted by professional burglars led by Emil Dionisio. Dionisio's accomplices were his brother, James Dionisio, his nephews, Harry and Ronald Barber, his brother-in-law, Charles Mulligan, alarm expert Phil Christopher, and Charles Brokaw. Emil Dionisio was the mastermind of this operation, but he worked closely with his brother James, an explosives expert and designer, fabricator of burglary tools. His brother-in-law, Charles Mulligan, was the driver and lookout man. The inclusion of Phil Christopher and Charles Brokaw was forced upon Dionisio by the person who clued him on the score. Dionisio reluctantly took Brokaw along as muscle only, which proved to be a critical mistake. He had no skills needed to assist in any other way with the robbery, as he was nothing more than a petty thief. The gang gained entry to the vault by using dynamite to blast a hole in its reinforced concrete roof. The FBI linked the 2 burglaries, and their investigation of transportation records revealed that 5 of the gang members had traveled to California on a single flight using their own names. A 6th man, James Dionisio, arrived on a separate flight the day before the crime. A search initially found nothing. That was until the dishwasher was checked. The burglars had forgotten to run the dishwasher before returning to Ohio, and the authorities recovered fingerprints and permitted federal arrest warrants to be issued. This led to the arrest and conviction of all burglars, along with recovering most of the loot as well. Earl Dawson, who assisted the police and testified against the gang, was offered money by his brother Harold Dawson to influence his testimony. Earl Dawson, who assisted the police and testified against the gang, was offered money by his brother Harold Dawson to influence his testimony. Earl Dawson was placed in the Witness Protection Program, as was Charles Brokaw, who testified against his co-conspirators in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Number 3. Securitas Depot Robbery. The Securitas Depot robbery was a large heist in Tonbridge, Kent, England. It began with a kidnapping on the evening on February 21, 2006 at 18:30 GMT and ended in the early hours of February 22nd. When the criminals left the depot with over 53 million cash, it was the UK's largest cash robbery, and the gang left behind another 154 million only because they did not have the room to take it. After abducting the manager of the depot and his family, the gang forced entry into the depot. Armed with weapons including AK-47 assault rifles and a Scorpion submachine gun, the gang tied up 14 members of the staff and left with £53 million in used and unused Bank of England sterling banknotes. Most of the getaway vehicles were found the following week, one containing 1.3 million in stolen notes. Another 7 million was recovered in Welling, and by June of 2006, over 30 people had been arrested in relation to the crime. Number 2. The Knightsbridge Vault Robbery. The Knightsbridge security deposit robbery took place on 12th of July 1987 in Savile Place, Knightsbridge, England, part of the city of Westminster in London. This robbery, the Banco Central burglary at Fortaleza, and the $900 million stolen from the Central Bank of Iraq in 2003 are said to be the largest bank robberies in history. The robbery was led by Valerio Vesicchi, a lawyer's son who arrived in London in 1986 from his native country, Italy, where he was wanted for 50 armed robberies. Once in London, he quickly resumed his robbery career to fund his playboy lifestyle. On this occasion, he secured inside help, obtaining the help of the managing director of the center, Pervez Latif, a cocaine user who was heavily in debt. On the day of the robbery, two men entered the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center and requested to rent a safe deposit box. After being shown into the vault, they drew handguns and subdued the manager and security guards. The thieves then hung a sign on the street-level door explaining that the safe deposit center was temporarily closed, whilst letting in further accomplices. They broke open many of the safe deposit boxes and left with a hoard estimated to be worth 60 million. One after the robbers departed, the shift changed and the new staff discovered the crime and alerted the police. Police forensic investigators recovered a bloody fingerprint that was traced to Valerio Vesicchi. After a period of surveillance, several of his accomplices were arrested during a series of coordinated raids on 12th of August 1987 and later were convicted of the crime. Vesicchi, however, fled to Latin America for some time. Later, when he returned to England to retrieve and ship his Ferrari Testarossa in Latin America, the police arrested him. Vesicchi was sentenced to 22 years, serving his sentence in Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight. Ironically, while serving his sentence there, he forged a friendship with Dick Leach, a flying squad officer who led his arrest. In 1992, he was deported to Italy to serve the rest of his sentence. He was incarcerated in an open jail in Pescara, where he was allowed to live a lifestyle he was already accustomed to, as well as run a translation company. On April 19, 2000, the day of his release from prison, a gunfight broke out between Vesicchi, an accomplice, and the police, resulting in Vesicchi's death. Number 1. Banco Central burglary. The Banco Central burglary at Fortaleza was the robbery from the vault of the Banco Central branch located in Fortaleza, in the state of Ceará, Brazil, on August 6, 2005. On a Saturday, a group of burglars tunneled into the bank and withdrew 5 containers of 50 real notes with an estimated worth of 164 million, which is 71.6 million today, and weighing about 3.5 tons, which makes it one of the world's greatest heists. As a result of the burglary, of the 25 people thought to be connected, just 8 had been caught, and 20 million was recovered up to the end of 2005. It was later noted that the numerous members of the gang were thought to have been victims of kidnapping, and one, Luis Fernando Ribeiro, believed to have been the mastermind of the plan, whom was then ironically killed by kidnappers after a ransom was paid. Arrest and the recovery of the money, as well as kidnapping and the death of the perpetrators, have been continuous, though most are still unaccounted for. The money in the vault was to be examined and to determine whether it should be recirculated or destroyed. The bills were not numbered sequentially, making them virtually impossible to trace. Anyways, that's all for today. Please make sure to like, share, comment your thoughts below. It really helps us out. And remember to subscribe so you won't miss our next video. Stay safe and we will be back soon with another video.